there's always these challenges of working with the office to make sure that they understand that I haven't gone off the deep end. I'm not going too native. I understand that we're trying to maintain a Wendy's image and still being successful and still being sensitive to the Japanese consumer as well as our Japanese competitors, which is why we have to do things differently here.
Ernie, I want to thank you again for making this your second time. You're one of my first interviewees, and that was actually in 2020. They'd canceled the Olympics, and the new Olympics was going to start. They were going to have it in 2021. You made some predictions. They came out really pretty close to what you said they're going to probably pull it off pretty well, and after that, then I asked you about Corona. How would that go, would you think? And you said, look, I don't think we're going to stay in this state. I think it's going to be something we'll get over. We'll learn to manage it, be it shots, be it whatever, but I don't think we're going to be in the state all the time. And you said that that's probably one of your biggest benefits. You don't say benefits, but it's the fact that you're an optimist. And you always look at the best. Like, for example, you love the bubble time.
Oh, absolutely. I want to go back.
But you hated Japan's approach of a hard landing.
Right.
Everyone else tries to basically make it a soft landing. But they tried it 3 times, 3 decades, and it never worked.
Right.
Every time, just decreasing the taxes a little bit, but still charging taxes, too much taxes. And no one could pay the tax. They got less. Where are you now in your life? Because you also talked about your Domino's franchise, which you had for 25 years. You talked about your third vodka and tonic.
Got me involved with Wendy's.
Made you say yes to doing Wendy's?
Yes.
You talked about that. And then you really lucked out by getting with First Kitchen, which had the distribution, but more importantly, the personnel.
That's right, yes.
To really grow by scale. So how is, first of all, Wendy's doing? How is it doing right now?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm honored to be asked to be on your podcast again, Lance. And I couldn't remember all the things I said before, so I'm glad I said a few things that were right. I'm not always right. If you ask my wife, I'm always wrong.
I think if you ask anyone's wife.
But, okay, so going back a bit. So obviously, it was really kind of, if you will, a key moment for Wendy's to expand Japan by acquiring the First Kitchen chain, which gave us scale, it gave us people, it gave us good location, legacy rents. So it really was the right move. There's no other move there to get it going. Having said that, I didn't predict Corona, and that obviously affected most of the restaurant industry, except actually Domino's, which I used to own. They grew in the pandemic because it's delivery. But if you're in the normal restaurant business where people have to come to your store, obviously the Corona situation was a real negative, and so that really hit the restaurant industry.
What was the percentage of companies that went out of business that were in the restaurant business?
I don't have a number on that because and I'll go into it a little bit. I was surprised by a few things, but one of the things, in life and in business, luck plays obviously a big role. So all the restaurant industry was affected. It depended upon which segment you're in. So I mentioned Domino's. If you're delivery, you actually did better. If you're izakaya, you're really dead in the water because no one's going to go drinking after work because they're all at home, working from home. Well, being in the fast food business, first of all, we did already have takeout. That was part of our business model, and that was one good element. And our main business was in the daytime, and alcohol is not a real big part of our business. So those were the things where we were not affected. And of course, we tied up with like the Uber Eats, the Maicon, the delivery concepts to then deliver our hamburgers. But our eat-in business did suffer. And so we were affected, and it affected our bottom line. And as I said, along with all the whole industry, but everyone was affected differently depending upon what segment of the restaurant industry, because you've got from A through Z in terms of being in like a bar restaurant to being in fast food to delivery, or a family restaurant. Family restaurants are also affected quite a lot. But the most amazing thing, Lance, and I've been here for a long time doing business, and I've been paying taxes, corporate taxes, personal income tax. We talked about a lot of taxes, and I never got anything in return from the government. This is the one time the government said, we tell you guys you have to, close down, you have to, shorten your operating hours, and they're going to give us, I think it was $100,000 a day. It doesn't match our cost, but then they adjusted, and they actually said, they did the most amazing thing. They actually subsidized the restaurant industry. That was the only time I felt grateful that for anything the government did. Because until now, whatever the government did was just pay more taxes. This time, I actually got something back for all the taxes I paid, and this was really a godsend for a lot of the restaurant industry. Having said that, not for everybody, but even for some, small mom and pops, they're actually making more money than when they're in operations, depending upon their situation.
You mean now, or would they?
No, during
that time.
During that time when they had the government subsidies.
Right. Okay.
So it really depended. So how did a lot, of course, of the restaurants went out of business. That's true, but this is the one time the government really stepped up to the plate. I have to say it's very unusual. What they didn't realize is that companies like ourselves, it's not by store. We have a big infrastructure behind there of head office staff. We have, HR, we've got marketing, we've got all kinds of, operation people on the head office, which of course, didn't have any kind of benefit from the government subsidies. But they realized that, the larger companies were affected just as much as the mom and pops. And so they started to make kind of accommodations, not based upon a one size fits all, but more based upon what your previous sales were and so on. And they adjusted the subsidies. So at the end of the day, as I said, being lucky, it wasn't so bad for us because of, first of all, the segment of the restaurant industry that we're in, which is fast food. And on top of that, we actually did have government subsidies. So, there's no way but knock on wood, those were some very positive things. And now, of course, we're coming out of this pandemic. And when I say coming out, obviously Corona is still there, Omicron is still there, but I think the psychology of not going out, not seeing people, not seeing your friends or family is gradually changing, and people are trying to get back to life, to normal life, and so as people are going out, people are being more cautious than say in the U.S. or Europe, where people have gone completely back to normal. It's amazing. But things are getting better. So to your question, we went through a very tough time. I was amazed by what the government did, but we weren't as affected as other businesses. I don't know what the percentage of the companies that went bankrupt were, but there's quite a lot. I mean, there's a big turnover. If you look all around, a lot of places have closed. But on the other hand, there are a lot of companies that were actually survived because of government subsidies. We were lucky in that we did okay. We were obviously doing better before the pandemic, but between the fact that we're in the fast food segment and we had the government subsidies, it's all right.
Did your share percentage change any as a result of before? Because you said before, I think you said McDonald's was like 80% or 70% of the market, of the hamburger market? So
McDonald's is one of the ones that, because their business model, they also did well in this pandemic. And that's because they, a long time ago, really went heavy to drive-thrus in the suburbs. So that means you can go there without even getting out of your car, And in my own mind, McDonald's does not have to be even better. They're already doing well. But
they did even better.
Yeah, they did even better.
They did even better.
Yes.
But did that cut down your percentage? Of course.
We're not in the same game where I don't consider us competitors.
Okay.
So we're trying to develop a niche, and
okay.
My biggest strategy is not to go head to head and compete with McDonald's, because that doesn't sound like a winning game plan.
Do you feel like you're trying to make sure you don't have any competitors? That's where you're.
Well, so we have to make a differentiation,
Right.
you know, and so when I look at McDonald's, they're dominant. They have 67% market share, probably it's bigger now. But their business model is all about very low pricing and low cost and high volume. And so they keep their operations simple as possible and more of a simpler menu to allow for that high volume and low pricing. And of course, they're massive in terms of their distribution stores and market penetration. So what I'm trying to do is do what they cannot do and what we can do, which is we can't go for the low price. We don't have the scale they have in terms of purchasing power. So we're going for more of a quality product and perhaps a little bit more complicated, say like a sandwich build for our hamburgers, because we're not as quick as them on what they call speed of service. On the other hand, you know, we can give more of a different kind of product and variety. You know, we also sell pasta. We have a very extensive menu, which with the McDonald's model, they're not so geared for variety. So, you know, we're trying to develop our niche based upon a little bit more on the quality side, a little bit more on the variety side, and you know, a little bit higher pricing. And so they wouldn't consider us competitors to begin with, but we're not trying to compete with them, that's for sure.
What about the decor of your restaurants? Are you changing that too to match your product? Or is
so
it
yes, so accordingly, you know, when you talk about the service industry, you know, it's not all about the food. It's about operations, it's about the atmosphere, it's about the service aspect. There's so many things. And no one thing is the key thing. You have to have everything, the total package, right. And that's why it's so difficult, because they're moving parts and, you know, something goes right here and something goes wrong there and so on. But certainly we try to also position ourselves as a brand to be a little bit above fast food. And when we kind of rejiggered, you know, combining Wendy's with First Kitchen, and I might have mentioned this in my earlier podcast, I'm not sure, but we did a customer survey as to what was good about Wendy's, what was good about First Kitchen. And one of the things that neither had at that time was the so-called Starbucks third place coffee atmosphere, where you could charge your mobile phone or your laptop. So that obviously changes your kind of look and feel. Of course, now, you know, that's not a big secret. Everyone's trying to do that, and you have to. It's almost a must. But at the time we're starting this out, it was still not quite so obvious that was so critical.
Staple, right.
But today, if you
to.
don't have that,
they're not going to be there.
Then you're in trouble. So that kind of changed our, you know, how we kind of the atmosphere, the ambiance, the look and feel of the store.
When you had McDonald's, I mean not McDonald's, sorry, Domino's, you also mentioned that you had problem with the headquarters because they had 12, you know, set, pieces, and you wanted to do things. So you said you have to think global but act local, but don't act so local that you become native.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. But the thing is, are you having that same issue with Wendy's? Because they had a big problem with you tying up with First Kitchen.
Yeah, I still face that actually. You know, yes, you know. So you know, obviously we you know, really.
Wait, that doesn't mean wait. After the success you've had with Domino's, I'm sure you've told them the story.
Yes.
And they still want you to stick with what they do in the other countries.
So of course we've actually, you know, broken the mold by combining with First Kitchen. So already, you know, we've gone way beyond pushing the envelope with them. Having said that, they still want to have some kind of, and rightfully so, as the owner of the brand, and you know, they're concerned about how they're perceived around the world. You know, they're do over $9 billion in sales, and they're one of the top, you know, 5 chains in the United States. So the franchise business is about, you know, the brand integrity, brand equity, all these kind of things. So they are concerned. They don't want me to go too crazy. And the thing is, I get that. I've been through that. So the thing is, they kind of have to say, well, maybe Ernie knows what he's doing in Japan. But, you know, when you talk about Wendy's, you're talking about 1,000 people in head office that all have to justify their position, their jobs. And part of it is maybe, you know, they said, listen, we have to maybe always say, you know, that maybe you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, and so on. And so there's always these challenges of working with the office to make sure that they understand that I haven't gone off the deep end. I'm not going too native. I understand that, you know, we're trying to maintain a Wendy's image and still being successful and still being sensitive to the Japanese consumer as well as our Japanese competitors, which is why we have to do things differently here. You know, I'm not selling to Americans here in Japan. I'm not dealing with American competitors, and this is the differentiation of why you have to go local. And sometimes it does drive you to go a little bit native. But this global, local, native thing it's a moving goalpost. It is always fluid, you know, and sometimes you have to go back a little bit, you know, say, well, this, you know, we are more of an American brand. Let's not lose that identity. But sometimes you have to go local, and really sometimes you actually have to go somewhat native. And when you keep on going back and forth, the people in you know, Dublin, Ohio are saying, well, what is he doing? You know, oh no, what is he doing again? And so then I have to go through that whole kind of, you know, story and kind of make sure that we're aligned. And you know, I think rightfully so. I get it, but it is always a continuous dialogue.
Is that where you're putting most of your focus now, or do you have other things that you're actually working on as well?
Well, you know, so Lance, when I did Domino's, I think I mentioned this, but we're the first ones to go to internet ordering, even before the U.S. And then they told me, you know, don't waste your time and effort in internet ordering. And I did, which was a good thing. And now they're saying that Domino's in the States is all about the internet. So, you know, it shows you. But the IT, every industry has to be an IT company. And so again, with, you know, Wendy's First Kitchen. So besides being local and being native and all this kind of stuff that I mentioned earlier, how do we, you know, enhance the IT component of this business? And the first steps in preparation, of course, for originally the Olympics was, you know, all the, you know, we had expected originally people from all over the world to come, and so, you know, how to do with the language issue. So what we did is we put in touchscreen kiosks that you can order in 4 different languages: so English, Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. You know,
but you still have that.
We have that. So
it's
they didn't come.
Oh, you said they didn't come?
No, the customers didn't
come. No, I know,
come.
but you still have that.
But we have that, and that's critical because
right.
What it has done is that actually it's very user friendly, and also it reduced our labor costs, because basically you don't need someone at the POS system. We do have a person there if you need them, but most of the people now in our stores, the customer just goes right to the touchscreen kiosk.
Okay.
So that was one key technology. We've also developed a mobile app, again a bilingual English-Japanese mobile app, but where you can order ahead of time, and then so you don't have to wait in line. You know, and then you come to the store. Once you come to the store, we can track that GPS system. So then we start to prepare it once you get to the store, because you don't want a cold hamburger, you don't want a soggy French fry. But so once you go to the store, we know that, and we know what you ordered already. Then we can start making it. So you just pick it up at the counter.
Let me ask, so at the counter, do you have people at the counter?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so it's not automated that way, where you come up, press the button, and here comes your meal.
Yeah, no, but
you're gonna go
they will give you your food. We have we have to have a service component, which is where the human touch is. You need that, but on the ordering process is where
it's all automated.
Yes,
right.
And so you can order it ahead of time and just pick it up. And again, you know, although that was also in preparation for the Olympics. Given COVID, you know, people didn't want to stay in the store that long, so this allowed them to spend less time, order ahead of time. So they're in and out, and so also that ended up being good for COVID. By the way, the touchscreen kiosks as well too, and
you have Uber Eats as well.
You know, just in and out. That's important, so you don't have this cluster effect, but the mobile phone or mobile ordering was another IT component. Now pushing the envelope a little bit more. So what I told you is you know, more or less in the U.S., you know, they do have touchscreen kiosks, they do have mobile ordering, and we were working, you know, on our own, but still in that direction. But we're trying to go one step further, and this is an experiment we're doing now in 12 of our stores, and we're working with actually 3 companies. One is a subsidiary of SoftBank, and if you enter the store, we have and order a kiosk. We have a facial recognition thing, which uses AI, and so you can actually pay with your face, and you can have a loyalty program if you register with your face, and so you don't need to do anything, and it's all done with your face. So this is the one step, but
when is that due to take place?
We're already experimenting with it. We have it in our stores right now.
So you have a few people that have volunteered, that have agreed to be a part of this?
Well, so our stores are doing it already. Well, we need people to register, just real customers,
okay.
Yeah, to register their face. So it's up to them. So this is the thing, though. We're still working on how to get more customers to register their face. Obviously, there's some concern about registering their face. What they don't realize, Japan has very strict privacy laws.
Right.
So when you register your face, we actually do not keep the face on record. We just keep the biometrics. So just the feature. So the face is not kept. And then after that, 6 months by the privacy laws, we actually also erase all the biometrics as well too. But if you do that, you have the benefit of being able to pay with your face, the convenience of that, have our loyalty program and everything. And we're trying to develop more incentives for that. But if you don't want to register, we do also have the ability, what they call anonymous data, to be able to understand, gender type, age, and so on, with ID, with AI and more accuracy. Because at the cash register, say like 7-Eleven, so on, someone is actually doing that, taking demographics, but physically and guessing. And so this AI allows us to have more accuracy in terms of determining the demographics of our customers and what they actually ordered and so on. And the next stage is actually to take it to getting your last order. If you knew the last order you did, then we can speed up the process so that the ordering process becomes easier, and you can just add or subtract. And so that's the next level. And but we're also trying to work on how we can drive new customers through some of the SoftBank affiliates, like we're still in talks, but to how I can get new customers as well, and register them on a platform so that they don't have to register at the store level. Anyway, this is kind of very, very kind of cutting edge stuff. Again, the U.S. says, "What are you doing, Ernie?" And I'm saying,
so they're not doing that.
No, this is our stuff here in Japan. Again, we're ahead of the curve, just like with Domino's. So they're asking me, and so I said, "Well, listen, don't worry. This all makes sense. We'll figure it out. And if it doesn't make sense, I'll stop. That's the thing." So I'm working on that. It's trying to develop the proof of concept of this thing, and if it does work, it'll be very interesting.
How long have you had it in place?
Just a couple months. It has given us a lot of actually great customer data, because at Domino's, because it's delivery, you have to give us your data, otherwise we can't deliver to you. You have to give us your name, your address, your telephone number, or your email address, and things like that. And that data is very critical in understanding the customer's buying habit, because that is then critical to developing a one-to-one marketing program, so that we can kind of customize and try to get you to buy more, or reduce your order cycle, or increase your average check. Those are simple things, a lot like what Amazon does. And but I was doing that even before Amazon, in a little bit more primitive way, because they didn't have a lot of the IT solutions back then when I started, or even digital marketing companies back then. Now, of course, those things are, you have that, but with a normal fast food, we don't know our customers, and this is a way to understand our customers and how they buy from us, how they buy our products, how they use our services. And today, as they say, the oil of the 21st century is customer data. That is the precious commodity, and of course how you slice and dice it, and that's about understanding the buying habits of your customers. Of course, second to none is like Amazon or Google or Apple. They really have this ecosystem built around their customer base and how their customers use their products. That's so critical, because then that allows you to do a lot of things, which is a win-win situation that, you know, gives your customer more benefit, but also you get to sell them more things. Right. So that's kind of like the big picture. We're trying to figure out how we can do that with our stores, and this is all experimental, so we don't know, but we are already doing it in our stores, like in Akasaka, and we have a few stores here and there that we started that.
Did you do it in the one in Roppongi?
Yes, I believe Roppongi. I don't, you know, I don't know all the stores that we're doing that, but yeah, we have about 12 stores now in the test.
Here's the big question about the products that you actually sell. Yes. Everyone's really concerned always about fast food. Right. Ever since I think they did that documentary with McDonald's. Ah, yes. The guy ate a Big Mac every day and he supersized whenever they told him to. Right. Whenever they asked him, he did it. Well, we know now it's not so much the product, it's the fact that he was doing that. Yeah. You know, too much of anything is not going to fare well with you. I don't care what it is or how healthy it's supposed to be for you. How good is the food that is coming through Wendy's? Yes. I mean, where is it sourced? What, is it grain-fed? I mean, that's the big thing that everyone worries about or is concerned about. What kind of food is it? Okay. Well, so Lance, to your question, first of all, everything in moderation, right? That's true. I mean, and so, you know, you can become a vegan, and that's not bad for you. That's one extreme, or you can go the other way. And there's no right or wrong answer, but my own philosophy, not only for food, but for anything, is everything in moderation. That's number one. And so number two is, you know, if you really want a completely healthy meal, you would not go to a fast food hamburger chain. So you think it's better for you to eat at home? I mean, have a prepared meal. Or go to a salad store or whatever. That is, you know, what you should do. But having said that, you know, Wendy's being a major global chain is concerned about, first of all, food safety, number one, and of course about, you know, balance and health, and you know, how we can be healthier, and of course in all of our supply chain, there's always this. We make sure that there is traceability, because when you're that big, you cannot afford to have an issue. Although it's never 100% in the food business, so you know, you have sometimes an issue, but generally speaking, and this is part of being you know, affiliated with a major global chain. All of our suppliers, we have a huge Q&A team from the U.S. head office that checks out all of the manufacturers we deal with to make sure, as the number one, food safety is there, quality assurance is there, and you know, those things are all in place. In terms of the products that we serve, of course, you know, we also think, you know, can we make something that's healthy, you know, along with a balance. So, you know, you might have, you know, throw in like an avocado hamburger or whatever, but, you know, it is we have a fried product. You know, if fried product's an issue, then you know, you won't eat a hamburger, you know, and so you're not going to go to Wendy's every day, and that's not our objective. You know, it's something that when you want a hamburger, when you want to eat French fries, hopefully you'll come to Wendy's. Is the product in Japan the same around the world? So basically, the quality requirements are the same, the specs are the same, and as I said, the team that monitors all the manufacturers are the same. But the manufacturers are different, because logistics, we will buy, you know, say most of the products from logistically closer than, say, the U.S. U.S. oftentimes is within U.S. manufacturers. We do import products from the U.S. like the French fries, and that's because we have a huge contract with one of the major French fry manufacturers, and that's where the cost competitiveness is for French fries. Actually, they're the number one in the world, but not for every product. So it depends upon. So the maybe product. Your meat products might come from Australia, correct, example, or something like that. Yes. Okay, and then what about your poultry? They all come from Thailand, for example. From Thailand, okay, yes. I see. But whereas in the U.S., most of their meat products will come from the U.S. Correct. Right, because they have. Okay, yes. That's interesting. And what about the way that they're fed? I mean, you said there's standards for all of it, so I guess it would be. So it'd be
so
same
the
across
Q&A
board.
team, they go there, they check out the
Right.
manual for us,
Right.
and they guarantee that these are the right guys, and they actually have to approve the manufacturer for us to buy from them. So and that's because they're a major chain.
Have you ever had the opportunity to go see some of the products?
My people have.
Oh, your people have
yes,
gone in there.
because I have another company that's a trading company that imports food on for the
You're doing
rest.
that. You
And
mentioned
we
that
also
before.
and we sell to Wendy's. So we actually buy from these manufacturers and sell to Wendy's.
Okay.
So and also to keep cost competitive, because it's arm's length, but we try to obviously give the benefit as a trading company to Wendy's.
So you feel very, very secure about what the product is because you're already doing it.
My own people are actually going
so
there.
you already know what's happening. So it's not
Yes.
like you have to question what they're getting.
Yes.
You've been doing it, and you're doing it with other companies. So
Correct. We
makes a big
sell
difference.
to other major chains as well as convenience stores.
I think I'll be going to Wendy's soon. Try your meat. But the hamburgers are a little bit more expensive, you said.
Correct, because the quality, so Wendy's position, even in the United States,
Right.
is that they go for a little bit more of a quality hamburger. Quality can be determined so many ways. But first of all, there's more meat. First of all, that's where where's the beef.
And what about the fillers?
Yeah.
Because I think they use some places use onions, some places use tofu.
No, but both McDonald's and Wendy's, it's 100% beef, but it's a matter of how much volume, and then of course there is some spec involved in kind of the beef, but we as I said, it's consistent around the world in terms of the quality of the beef, but that Wendy's kind of every major chain takes pride in their products and it's the best. So we're a bit above normal fast food, but not at the high end side, and kind of in between their higher end side of fast food. Because there's always a price value relationship when you talk about quality. And so, but given the price, we try to provide good quality. And I think that's the best way to describe it.
Now, outside of Wendy's, in another area, I see you quite often. I'm not going to say always, I see you quite often with the diplomatic part of Japan. For example, their senators, the governors, the heads of top companies. And I know you were over the YPO.
Yes.
YPO, and now I think they have one that's above that, you said.
Correct, yes.
From 40 and above.
Yes.
And are you still the head chairman of that?
Well, and there's several so-called graduates. One is YPO Gold.
YPO Gold.
And I was a chairman of the Japan chapter.
And what is that, 40 and above?
It's above 50.
Above 50, okay.
And but I did my term. I'm done with that.
How long is the term?
It's 1 year. They try to make sure that there's always kind of you don't want to have someone like a dictator in power forever. So the idea is that it's a yearly thing. But I'm also on the international board of CEO, which is the other graduate organization. So in November, I'll be going to the board meeting in Florence, actually, for that.
But you do it different places every year.
There are tons of things every year around in terms of events. And the board meeting happens to be in Florence. And they have board meetings around the world globally, but this time it's in Florence. But the events and it's a global organization, so they have many things going all around the place. But so yes, I'm still involved with that organization. Yeah.
There's something I'd like to ask you, but I'm going to wait until we get a little bit more stuff out on the table.
Sure.
Why do you find, because of that organization, is that the reason why you stay very politically involved?
Well, actually, YPO tries to stay out of politics. It's not a political organization. It's an organization of business people. Having said that, a lot of the YPO members, because of their businesses and because they're leaders, have a lot of relationships with a lot of politicians, just by because that's just how the world is. If you're a certain size business, you do have relationships with government. So oftentimes with our events and so on, we involve various different heads of states or even royal families, imperial families, to speak to us and, to learn about, other countries and more, just beyond the business, the political situation or the culture. It's a very multifaceted educational organization. It is really to, the goal is to make you a better president, and it's not only about the business and bottom line. It's to learn a lot more about the world and different cultures around the world, and all the various facets. Of course, there is that connection, but the objective is to all about kind of learning.
Right. Yeah. What's the size in Japan?
Well, gosh, so the existing YPO members chapter, that means those that are under 50. I'm just guessing, but it's maybe about 170, 180 members. The graduate organization, we have two now. One is a kind of domestic YPO graduate organization. They made their own, separate from the international, which might be about maybe 300 members. And there's another organization, YPO, so it's called NPO and YPO Gold, which is still connected with the international organization. And this would be, I think, now around 100 people or so.
Okay. Now, what other organizations are you involved in? I know that you started the safety driving program. So you're still involved with that?
Yes, I am.
Because that was your baby. That's the one.
Right. It's a very important organization for the delivery industry.
Mm-hmm.
And
so how old is that? That's what, like 5, 10? How many years old is that now? Older, because you have Domino's for 25 years, so that would be.
It's
about
quite
3 decades.
An established organization, still important, still going strong because it's critical. It's working with the National Police, and the way I've used it, as you know, is to first of all make sure that the delivery industry itself has grown actually since the days of Domino's a lot. But obviously, a big concern is safety driving, and so one of the things, of course, is to have the police involved with us to make sure that we train our drivers, our part-time drivers, to be aware of safety driving. But the other thing is, I made this organization so it's an industry organization-wide thing, only focused on safety driving. So it wasn't just Domino's, for the whole industry. But the other thing is that when I originally talked to the National Police, they normally would not work with the private sector, and I said they should work with us because if you look at the safety accidents, the two biggest segments of the population that cause accidents are the older people and the very young people. The older people, our organization, we have no control over that. But for the younger people, they're working in our stores. We can have them trained by you and say, you have to be safety. Safety driving has to be part of your thinking, how you drive, and so on. And though they're part-timers, eventually they will leave the organization. But hopefully, there'll be some of that safety driving kind of mindset that. They'll keep with them as they go on, and the police like that idea. They said, "Oh, this is a way for us to reach the young people." Because if they said, we want to, do safety driving, no one's going to show up, But if they're forced to because they're working for our organization, they have no choice because we're paying them to show up, And they said, "Oh, that's right. That makes sense."
That's true.
So that's why I was actually, I might have mentioned this, but recognized by at that time Prime Minister Hashimoto for this, yes, and actually since then, it's not because of that, but certainly the safety, the accident percent has come down actually.
Right. Well, I'm sure they've come to you about this. I'm sure they came and said, "Ernie, help us out with these scooters and these electric bikes." So talk to me.
So that's a whole nother issue because they're what you call gig. Kind of employees. They're not so in terms of like these delivery companies that work on bikes and so on. That's another issue. In terms of the scooters in general and bicycles that come out of nowhere, I mean, we we can only deal with people who work in our stores and so on. So that's a whole nother level. And I think that's become an issue. I know that when you drive
around the world.
Yeah, there's more and more bicycles, and they don't go by the rules.
But not just that. Yeah. These bicycles have batteries on them, and they're going as fast as motorcycles.
Yeah. No, that's an issue. By the way, that's beyond my capacity.
You've seen the ones with the big tires,
yes.
Those bikes with big tires, and then you have all these kids riding around with these scooters, no helmets, nothing.
Yeah. So that of course goes beyond the parameters of the Safety Driving Association, which
I'm sure you've thought about it.
But they are thinking about it. They mean the police, the government, and so on. And it goes. We can only deal with the part-timers that work within our store or the stores.
Do you have any predictions as to what you think is going to happen with those two, particularly those two, the electric bikes and electric scooters, as far as regulations?
Yes, I don't have any prediction because no one knows, but certainly it's on the radar screen of the police. It is becoming, I think, an issue. And they have to do something about it because, like everything else, I mean, the whole idea of, autonomous driving, this whole trend for cars, is to reduce accidents. But when you look at all these scooters and so on, it's like an accident waiting to happen. I
was wondering,
they cause accidents.
Are they causing a lot of accidents?
I don't know. All I know is that I've seen so many close calls. It does worry me. I have not really seen a real accident in front of me, but it seems like something that certainly the police department and the Japanese government has to be worried about. I'm sure they're thinking about how they should make rules for that.
And who's behind? Do you know who's behind putting those bikes? I mean, what company is the one they're everywhere?
Yeah.
And I've seen these little square green boxes lined off with tape, and you have the bike there, and I don't know how they're charging them. I don't know how it's set up. Do you know what the system is?
I know I'm not an expert on that, but I know that there's a lot of these kind of startup companies that kind of lease these bikes as a ecological way to get around the city. So that sounds very good. It's kind of like part of this green movement thing, and of course that's good. Having said that, though, there is the other side, which is the potential for accidents, and so they really have to address that. Lance, every kind of innovation and every kind of advancement, whether it's the internet, whether it's cars and mobility and so on, there's really positive things about it, but there's also a dark side to almost any kind of advancement, and so you have to understand the dark side and really deal with that. In the case of these bicycles and so on, they're very environment friendly. They're healthy to ride and so on, and there's a lot of great things about that. And now you're able to do it, with all this kind of companies that lease it to you and go from A to B, and then you can, leave your bike there. The dark side of it is that, how do you handle the accidents? Just like the internet, there's so many incredible things about the internet. We get information and so on, but there's a dark side, there's even a dark web and so on, and how do you deal with that? And fake news and things like that. So it's not that you shouldn't do it, because there's good things, but it's how do you deal with the issue of accidents is really how you have to look at it. And when I was doing Domino's, in the beginning, for scooters, there was no rule about wearing helmets.
That's right. But if they were 50 cc and below.
But we made our company rule that you had to wear helmets.
Right.
Because we're concerned about our staff as well as potential accidents happening, and we wanted to make sure that everyone was safe. And it took a lot of effort to get these young people to wear helmets because they didn't want to. It wasn't necessary by law and so on. But we knew that was an issue. So the fact that if you have these guys going on these battery-powered bikes without a helmet, that doesn't sound like a good idea. So eventually, you have to look at some of those things and what do we do about that issue? So I don't think you ban that, but you really have to say, okay, we have to put some rules and regulations on that. It's just like with any kind of innovation, any kind of advancement. The reason why you have it and it's growing is because it's good. The consumer wants it. There's demand for it. You just have to make sure that you understand also what
That's right.
the issues are with that, the dark side.
There's one question I'd like to end with, Ernie, and
Sure.
this is this. What advice would you give a young adult Ernie Higa? If you could go back in time and you had to give yourself advice just as you were starting to become an adult.
Okay, well, you certainly hit me with all kinds of difficult questions, and that's probably the most difficult one. Because number one, I don't think I'm the person to give any kind of advice, but if I were to give any kind of advice, and I don't know if I touched upon this in the podcast earlier, because I've forgotten all what I said before, given my old age.
Now this is to you.
But to me, I know, but it would be to anybody as well as myself, is to really understand your own personal strengths and weaknesses, and even before you become a young adult, and to understand yourself, because that then determines what you're good at and what you're not good at. And understand what you're good at determines what your potential is. And once you understand what your potential is, then you know where you should focus your efforts. And then that allows you to be successful in your own life. Everyone's potential is different. So there's no like one standard for what successful is. Like it's not money, it's not fame. It's really each person achieving whatever potential they have. And if there's huge potential but you're not achieving, you're not even getting close to it, that's not good. If you have a smaller potential and you are achieving it, you're successful. So success or achieving your potential is an individual thing. The problem is understanding what your potential is, and what that is actually understand yourself. And we spend our lives trying to figure out what we're good at and what we're bad at. I still sometimes do something that's, oh my God, I'm so terrible at this. This is not my potential. Why did I do that? I should not be doing this. But there's certain things. Wow, I'm okay at this, and I'm finding out that golf is certainly not my potential. Tennis is not my potential. There's quite a few things I'm finding out at this age, although I haven't given up yet. But anyway, that's going to always be just a hobby and never part of my potential. But if I was younger, I already knew that I'm not going to be a basketball star because I'm too short. That's way outside of my potential. Or a ballerina because I'm not female. So, a lot of things. Or I couldn't be like an acrobat like you. So. Or a gymnast. So I think that those are obvious things, but there are a lot of things we don't know about ourselves and sometimes, our friends or our family know us better than we do. And it's really to understand yourself quicker. I mean, we spend, I think, our whole lives learning more about ourselves, and realizing, again, simply what we're good at and what we're not good at. There's two things. I'm finding out that I'm not good at a lot of things these days. But anyway, and that's important, because if you're not good at it, then don't try to, keep trying to do something that you're not good at, and really focus on what you are. And so it sounds simplistic, but I think if you really try to think about it, that's really what every person should be striving for. And almost at any age. I mean, of course, as I said, you want to find out, more about yourself earlier than later. But, even at my age, I still am, find out more things about myself,
Well, you're not
like today, I'm trying to figure out, am I good at podcasts or not? I
don't
know.
You get it.
I'm still figuring that out, Lance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ernie.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. All of you watching this podcast, make sure you press like and subscribe. And remember, it's all unknown, so continue to reach for the stars, because you're too blessed to be stressed.